All right, so iPhone 16 Pro, huh? It's everywhere you look. We've been digging into a ton of YouTube reviews, even some spec sheets in Spanish this time, and of course, Apple's marketing is going full force as always. So is this one key upgrade or what? Should we all be running to the Apple Store?
Well, that's the question, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of buzz around this one. What I find interesting, though, is the variety of sources you've gathered. We've got everything from those super enthusiastic unboxing videos to people really getting into the nitty-gritty of the specs, and then some, shall we say, spicier takes.
Yeah, for sure, and that's kind of what we're here for, right?
Yeah.
To break it all down. Honestly, though, looking at this A18 Pro chip alone, it sounds pretty amazing.
Yeah, let's start there. The hardware. The A18 Pro is a beast. Some benchmarks even have it going toe-to-toe with the M1 MacBook. Then you've got the camera system, 4K video at 120 frames per second. On paper, at least, pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah, the hardware is definitely impressive, no doubt about that. And there's always a but, right? What about the software side of things? This new iOS 18 and all the Apple Intelligence stuff, is it as good as they say?
Well, that's where things get interesting. Some of these reviews, they absolutely rave about that new haptic camera control button. But others, well, let's just say not everyone's convinced.
Yeah, one reviewer even called it Touch Bar 2.0. You know, cool at first, but ultimately kind of pointless. It's almost like Apple's trying a little too hard to reinvent the wheel sometimes.
Exactly. And that kind of brings us to a theme that keeps popping up throughout all this research, this big push for hardware innovation, while the software experience may be, possibly, taking a little bit of a back seat.
Several reviewers are using words like bloated, even unfinished, to describe this iOS 18.
Which is not exactly what you want to be hearing when you're about to drop over $1,000 on a new phone. And speaking of things that might not be quite ready for prime time, what about that Apple Intelligence AI? You know, all those flashy features they keep showing off?
Yeah, that seems to be more hype than anything else at this point, at least for now. Especially if you're outside the US, then you're waiting till next year. Makes you wonder if maybe they're prioritizing marketing over the actual user experience.
Seriously, it's
Yeah.
like buying a car that promises self-driving, but for now you only get like cruise control. This is not the Apple we know. Yeah, it's a valid point for sure. It does make you question their priorities. Are they so focused on pushing the boundaries with the hardware that the software is getting left behind? Especially when you look at what the competition is doing.
Oh, don't even get me started on the competition. Google and Samsung are killing it with their AI assistants these days. They're light years ahead. We're talking features that actually work straight out of the box.
And that's the key difference here. Apple's promising some revolutionary AI experience, but eventually, meanwhile, their competitors are actually delivering, tangible value right now, today.
It's kind of like they're so busy winning this hardware race, but they're forgetting that the software is where the real magic happens, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting situation for sure. And actually, a lot of the tech analysts you've included here, they suggest that maybe Apple's playing a different game altogether. They're thinking about the whole ecosystem, the App Store, Apple Music,
That,
all of their services.
right. It makes sense when you think about it. Get people hooked on the ecosystem, and they're less likely to jump ship, even if the competition has the latest and greatest.
Exactly. And it's not even just about keeping people locked in. A lot of the sources you've gathered actually praise Apple for how they're handling sustainability. This iPhone 16 Pro, it's using a lot more recycled materials.
Which is great. Don't get me wrong. It's a good thing. But at the same time, it feels a little ironic, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Encouraging people to upgrade every year while also talking about sustainability. It's like,
Well, it's definitely a balancing act, that's for sure. And it's not just Apple. A lot of tech companies are facing this same dilemma. I mean, it really makes you think about the bigger picture, consumer culture, and just how much we all want the newest gadgets.
okay, so we've got this hardware, software, ecosystem, sustainability. It's a lot to wrap your head around. What does it all mean for the average person? Like, someone's trying to decide if this iPhone 16 Pro is worth their hard-earned cash. What should they be thinking about?
Well, it really boils down to your own priorities, right? And of course, your budget. If you're already all in on Apple's ecosystem and you just have to have that seamless experience, then yeah, the iPhone 16 Pro delivers. However,
However, and this is a big however, you could be paying a premium for features that aren't quite there yet.
precisely, there's no guarantee that things like Apple's new AI are going to live up to the hype, even when it finally launches.
So maybe instead of asking, should I buy the iPhone 16 Pro, the real question is, what do I actually want from my smartphone?
Yeah, you're getting it. It's
Yeah.
all about perspective. It's interesting because you've included some reviews from people who are actually switching from Android to iPhone,
Hmm.
and their point of view is really interesting.
Right. They're coming at it with fresh eyes. They don't have the same history, the same expectations, maybe.
Yeah, and for them, this iPhone 16 Pro's hardware, it might be the biggest selling point. It's a big change. But if they're used to more freedom, more customization in their software, or if they rely on AI a lot, it might be kind of a shock.
It's true. Just like with anything else in tech, there's no right answer for everyone.
And that's what makes these deep dives so interesting. We're not just looking at specs on a sheet. We're talking about the whole picture, the trends, the bigger picture, all the questions that come up. It's fascinating.
So where does this leave us? We've got all this incredible hardware, software that might not be quite there yet, the whole ecosystem thing. It seems like the smartphone world is getting more and more complicated.
Well, it is. There's
Well,
no doubt about that.
uh,
But sometimes you just got to go back to basics. I'm reminded of something one of your Spanish reviewers said. It was something like, the best camera is the one you have with you.
So true. We get so caught up in megapixels and AI and all that, we forget that taking a picture is about capturing a moment.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if you've got the latest iPhone or something you've had for 5 years. The power to tell your story is right there in your pocket.
So before you go running to the Apple Store, maybe take a look at the phone you have right now, look at the pictures you've already taken. Is there something missing that only the iPhone 16 Pro can give you?
Probably not, right? The magic's in the moment itself, not the device.
Well said. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the iPhone 16 Pro, is it powerful? Absolutely. Is it revolutionary? Maybe not so much, at least not on the software side. But hey, this whole thing got me thinking, is the smartphone world kind of hitting a wall? Are we starting to see things differently? It's something to think about, but you know what? No matter what phone you're using, get out there and take some amazing pictures today. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.